guys just are coming off a big emotional series against your rival. How do you guys stay up and have your intensity level a week after that?
Well, we addressed it right away on Monday. We talked about how intense and the rivalry, the series, how it got portrayed to be one of the top weekends of the season. But we talked about being emotionally attached or emotionally invested into the next weekend. Colorado College talked about their record, talked about what they've done already. Coach has been in there for 3-4 years now of putting his stamp on his program and playing the way he wants to do it and having success. And also talked about going there last year and getting a split. Coming out down the first game, coming back to win on Friday, and then losing the second game, playing well, but losing the second game on Saturday. And again, I think the biggest thing is making sure that there's no let up or no let down in the intensity or the emotional side of it. And we talk about being emotionally invested or having an attachment emotionally into the next round.
Is it easier to preach that no let up because of what happened last year at CC?
Absolutely, absolutely. We followed, playing down there, and splitting, and then following them last year on what they did in the second half of the season. They did a lot of good things. They won a lot of games against good teams. And then the other thing that we talked about, talking about, two teams in Penn State and Notre Dame last weekend losing their first game on Fridays to teams that they probably took lightly. That can't happen. And again, it has to be making sure that you move on from the previous weekend and focusing on what we have. And it's our first NCHC weekend. It's critical points in the standings. And again, we have different goals that we get to. One being top 4 and getting home ice, and that you have to make sure that you take care of business early in the season.
What's the reason they've been able to get off to a hotter start this year?
I think probably familiarity with the coach and what they do. They've brought a number of new players into their program over the last couple of years. They have a lot of players on their roster. They have competition in their roster, and they have a coach that's been there that has a little bit of continuity of being around for a few years to implement what he wants. So I think there's a number of things in there that go into it. And again, probably knowing that the NCHC is a tough league that you have to get after it right away and being highly competitive.
What do you think of going to the big sheet? You guys have already got 2 games on the big sheet in Alaska this year. Do you change anything?
No, obviously structurally and a few different things we'll make tweaks to, but nothing drastic within how we play. The fortunate thing is here at the Ralph we have the Olympic sheet to practice on, so it's not like you're going to go out there and not practice on that dimension of an ice. So again, we'll make some tweaks to different things as far as structurally, but we won't drastically change anything.
I know Austin doesn't have any points yet this year. How do you think he's played overall?
I think he's been playing hard. He's playing consistent. Obviously, statistically on the offensive side, you probably, him as well as us, wish he would have probably more points. But we've had meetings with all of our players individually and as a team. Don't worry about the individual point side of it. That'll take care of itself. It's when you skip the process of the day-to-day things of working hard or the details in your game, you have to make sure you cover all of that. The points will come eventually. And again, it's just a part right now where it's not coming for him, but he's doing the right things and it'll come for him eventually.
CC's getting a ton of points from that top line of theirs. You guys have a number of guys, and I know you don't have last change, but do you feel like you guys have a number of lines that can play sort of a shutdown role?
Yeah, you know what, I think it goes to the depth of our team this year again. We started the game on Friday with Bowen Smith and Olsen, and I thought they did a good job on whoever line they were up against. They were up against the top 2 lines mostly that night, and they did a good job. Gardner's line, that would be a good matchup too. But when you really look up and down our lineup, I think when our 4 lines have a lot of depth as far as contributing offensively, and then also playing the right way defensively. And again, our D-core too. That's going to be a big thing on having the matchups on the back end that'll give us success. And I think we've got some pretty good depth back there.
Might Simo miss another weekend here?
Yeah, you know what? Again, we're heading out on the road later today, and we got another practice today. We'll see where he's at, but again, I don't think he's too far off. And when you have players that can play in your lineup that are fully healthy, that's a good thing to have. It's one of your down numbers, and guys that are trying to get in the lineup that are injured, then you're going to press guys into the lineup. But we'll make sure that we look after his best interest and our best interest going forward here.
You guys, you ran into a hot goalie last year against them. You ran into a hot goalie against Minnesota on Friday night. What do you do to maybe combat that in game when you realize, all right, this guy's standing on his head, and how do we try to get something past him?
Well, I think the biggest thing, you try to make adjustments, whether it's during the game, leading into the Saturday game. You try to make adjustments to your team as far as how you want to play. I think the biggest thing when a goalie's seeing it and feeling it, I think you got to get to him. You got to get to the paint. You got to make it tougher on him. And I don't mean running the goaltender. I mean you got to get in his eyes to make sure that he has to look around you for shots. You got to get a lot of pucks to the net with secondary opportunities, meaning rebounds. I think you just got to be around him a little bit more. And again, we talked about it. The other part too is if you got a goaltender seeing it and feeling it, you got to have quick puck movement in the offensive zone, and a lot of that is lateral puck movement. If a goalie sees a puck coming straight on him, chances are he's going to make a save. But if you move the puck laterally, now he's got to move a little bit. So there's a lot of different things that go on to it. You don't want to overcomplicate it, but you want to try to make it harder on the goaltender in a number of different ways.
How do you balance that between pushing too hard and then giving up an easy opportunity on the other?
That's a great question. And that's something that we preach about all the time, is staying with the things you do on a daily basis and getting rewarded for it. And frustration can't get in the way. We call frustration a wasted emotion. It can't get in the way of our game, and we have to make sure that we do the things over and over again to give us success, but at the same time is try to adapt and change and try to offset things if things aren't going well.